organization. It's a movement. We're talking about unity. We're talking about unity. So we're aimed to taking down the system of race by educating, enlightening, informing, and positively debating with those who have counterviews.
Welcome to Talk About Unity. I'm back from jury duty.
Yay, welcome back. Welcome back. Glad to have you. I got a partner now.
Oh,
yes, cool.
Yeah, I didn't get picked, so there we go.
Oh, that's good. How'd you get out of that? I mean,
oh man,
did you want to get out of that?
Oh, I did because I had to go out of town. Yeah, it was this suit. It was a civil suit, and it was all about one person trying to sue the other person about this personal injury lawyers, how they're trying to get rich and people are trying to capitalize on that, and I said, I had a wipeout. Somebody left some candy racks in the middle of the Walmart aisle and I fell. They were terrified, and all my friends were saying, you're going to get paid, and I said, I am going to be biased towards this case because of my own incident. Well, can you be non-biased enough to make a sound judgment? I go, I think so. I knew that was going to get me out, so I thought, you know what, I got out, but the next time, because it is my duty, I'm going to be a good boy, and I'm going to not
somebody's got to do the duty.
Yeah,
somebody's got to
do the duty. I felt bad, but I had to go be the family designated Uber driver for people that need treatment going downtown. So
okay, so well, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, all right, everybody's got some duty to do, and he had his jury duty. So I missed him last week, but we had a good show though. We had Kim out of Atlanta. We were talking about politics, and it was one of those things which I think is very instructive for our society because, of course, Kim is what we would call, and I don't like to use labels, but she's on the other side of the aisle from my political views.
Okay.
But we're such good friends and get along. So it's kind of instructive. And some of the things I guess we'll continue today because on today's show, we've taken your questions. We went out and we asked for questions so that we could have a show where we're hearing from the people out there and trying to provide some answers because we need some answers to some of these things that are happening out in our country right now. And not just the emotion. Not just the emotion, not just people responding out of their anger and their hate and all that stuff. So we're going to try to provide some of that today on our show. And so I'm just glad to have you back.
I'm glad to be back.
All right.
On a day like today.
Yeah.
I like your shirt. You got.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
Yeah,
here we go. Dr. King. The time is always right. And I can't talk like Dr. King.
The time is always right
to do what is right. All right. So we got that going. We got a Dr. King happening today. So we need to commemorate Dr. King. Matter of fact, one of my friends sent me a post this morning, and I told her I would talk about it for a little bit on the show. But she sent me a post where they had a caricature of Dr. King up there, and it said, and we need leaders not in love with money, in love with justice, not in love with publicity, but in love with humanity. And then someone took their own words and on the top of it wrote, we will on 20 January.
Come on, man.
So here we go. So this is our thing today. How do we snatch division out of the jaws of unity? Because we got unity ready to come forth, and we can still snatch some division out of that. How do we create division out of unity?
I love the quotes of Martin Luther King.
Oh, he's got some good.
When I was in DC last year, we had an opportunity, just a little downtime, and we went and seen a bunch of the memorials, and his was one of my favorites. He's all over, engraved in granite. It says, what was the one that I love the most? It says, hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Man, that's brilliant. Yeah. Why didn't I come up with that quote, right? It's just, but it's true. Yeah. It's true. And so just there's so much.
And what's harder is trying to live that. Yeah. Live in that. Woo.
Yeah. And where we're living right now with our country being so messed up, man, we need more Martin Luther Kings to run around and not only just say it, but to live it. So anyway, interrupted you.
All right, cool. So, hey, we need some more dreams. We need dream kings. All right. Yeah. So here we go. So today we're going to spend some time, first of all, my new weekly segment that I try to do, and it's called Carlen's Commentary. And so on Carlen's Commentary this week, I just want to spend some time to kind of get our mindset. And so let's begin with today's Carlen's Commentary. All right, let me begin by saying this. No one owns the views of Dr. King.
That's right.
Dr. King's words don't belong to a political party. a news outlet or media source, or even his own family. Dr. King's views are free for use to all those who would subscribe to them. And that's the challenge, to subscribe to them. If you're upset today because someone espouses his views, Dr. King's views, and uses his quotes, you got to deal with that. I mean, you don't control that. All right. Your judgment of the person making the quote only serves to identify that you in some form have misused the message of Dr. King. So here's my Dr. King quote for today. Dr. King once said, "An individual has not started to live until he or she can rise above the narrow confines of her individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of humanity."
Wow.
The question I pose for all today is, do I care about humanity or do I care only about me? Humanity is calling, and you can't answer with your political party affiliation. You can't answer with your religious affiliation. And you can't answer with your socioeconomic status, your employment status, and you most definitely can't answer with your race. Humanity is calling. One of the other quotes, great quotes by Dr. King, he said, life's most urgent and pressing question is, what have you done for others?
That's good.
So, of course, we would like to interpret the others to be those for whom we have fond affection. We often interpret others to be those who do the things we want and say the things we like to hear. We even sometimes interpret the others to be those who look like we do and act in accordance with our views of life. But I must remind you that those are your personal and individualistic concerns and not the concerns of humanity. See, humanity calls today in manifesting concern for not only the buildings being burned down, but those who burn them down.
Yep.
Humanity calls today in caring not only for those who are in power, but caring as well for those who have no power. Humanity calls today for us to have concern and compassion, not only for those in my family, but for those outside of my family as well. The call for humanity is in fact determined by not only how I care, but what am I doing for others?
Come on.
And I want to remind us again, who are the others? Who are the others? These others that we're talking about. The others don't always look like you, and they may be in a different class. They may come from a different country of origin, and they might be in part of a different ethnic group. The others have often never met you or been part of your club, your sports teams, or your schools, and they don't live in your communities. The others not only do not view life from your perspective, but they have views that totally contradict your perspective. And still, life's most urgent and pressing question is, what have you done for others? What have you done for them? Those not like you. Now we go on saying, how much have you cared for them today? And how have you shown that you care? This is indeed an urgent and pressing question. This is the call of humanity. How are you answering that call today? And that's Carlen's commentary.
Preach!
All right, that's it. That's it.
Come on.
Tell us what you think. All right,
Oh my goodness.
That's the commentary. What are you doing for others?
The call to humanity is universal. Every one of us have this call. We need to be fully present. The Bible says, and here I am, the preacher, Psalms 37:4 says, if you delight yourself in the Lord, He gives you the desires of your heart. Not what you want to do. The closer you get to Him, the more time you spend with Him, the more you're going to be like Him, and you're going to respond the way He would. And His response to humanity is to love everybody, to believe in everybody, to bring hope to everybody. And I was looking at Galatians 5:22. It says, Paul says, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law.
No law.
See, the fruit of the Spirit is not a merit badge. It's not a medal. It's an action. It's a verb. It's what we do. And the more we spend time with Him, the more we're going to do that. And listen, He'll give you the desires of your heart, but also the time in which to do it. We got to know what time it is to be fully present. You can't be living in the past. You can't be living in the future. You got to live right now and think about what's happening right now. I had something happen to me Friday. And let me just tell you this. The devil is a liar and the devil is real and wants to steal, kill, and destroy and mess up your opportunities to do good. And so I went to go take my computer to the mall to get repaired. I had to set an appointment, didn't set an appointment. I pay extra money so I don't have to set appointments. The bouncer at the door said, nope, you're not getting in. So I walked away angry. I don't get angry a lot, but I was angry because my computer that I spent a lot of money on was broke.
Mhm.
So I'm storming out of the mall. As soon as I walk out the door, I hear yelling and screaming, see police cars, paramedics, young man with handcuffs. He's yelling, "Why did you tase me? Why did you tase me?" And you know, they jumped me. Somebody needs to go after them, not me. And then this crowd of people with their cell phones trying to get famous, pointing them at the guy.
Cell phone famous.
Yeah, and cussing out the police. And so I'm mad already. So I'm walking towards the car. And as I walk towards the car, the young man says, "Somebody call my mama." And all I can think about, if that was my boy or my daughter, how would that make me feel if I heard that? And he said, "Can somebody get me a drink of water? I need something to drink." And still heading towards the car, I hear my wife's voice as I left out of town. She said, "Honey, are you going to get that case of water out, or you just want to deal with it when you get home?" And in my mind, I said, "I'll deal with it when I get home, but get me a drink of water." I opened up the back of the vehicle and had a bottle of water, and I started walking towards the young man. I saw the paramedic looking at me. And I said, "Sir, the young man asked for a bottle of water." I said, "Can we give him this bottle of water?" He says, "We don't want nothing from you." And
the boy said that, or the cop?
No. The paramedic.
Oh, the paramedic.
To me.
Paramedic.
The young man was looking like, "Yeah, that'd be really good about right now." The paramedic, "We don't want nothing from you." And I just looked at him and I said, "You know what? Just in case you change your mind, let me just set it right down here on the sidewalk," and real slow set it down. The police officer saw the whole thing. There's three police officers, and one turned at me and he said, "Sir, can you bring that over here?" I walked over to him. I said, "He asked for it." He goes, "Thank you. He could use that about right now. We could use a few more people that would defuse the situation instead of making it worse." And I looked at the young man and I said, "Calm down. You're going to be all right." And I turned around and walked off. And I was telling that to the congregation this weekend. I said, "Man, I wish there was more to the story. Like everybody, all of a sudden, the fire of God came down and everybody just was so happy and got right with God." But no. All it was give the bottle of water and leave. And sometimes that's all really I think God wants us to do, is just be fully present and just give us seeds, just little seeds and elements of kindness and threads of recognizing humanity that is a little bit different than you. But in the reality is, that kid was just like anybody else's kid. May have made a wrong decision, maybe he really did get jumped, but he was in a place of need. So,
and that's what you're doing. You're answering life's most urgent and pressing question.
Yep.
What have you done for others? You had nothing to gain out of that.
No.
You had, matter of fact, you could got yourself in more issues just by your action.
Well, yeah.
But your concern was not yourself. It was what you could do for others, and that's where we got to go.
That's where we got to be.
And so that's where we got to go. So hey, so we got a great show today, and our question is, what are we going to do about your questions today?
Yes.
All right. So we took your questions. How can we answer your questions? And that's what we're going to attempt to do on today's Talk About Unity show. And so we'll start that as soon as we come back from this break. We'll see you then. Hello, I'm Carlen Charleston, Executive Director of E.R.A.S.E, and I want to take this time to invite you to an opportunity to change the world. Perhaps you're too busy and too preoccupied to help change the world, but please take the next 2 minutes to listen to how we plan to do it. The divisiveness and bitterness observed in our country today is not a coincidence of the current administration or any administration before. It is also not a product of a singular or multiple infractions by a zealous or racist police force. No, the race problem precedes the founding of our country. Our very history speaks in racial language, and most everything that happens in our society now carries with it racial baggage. It simply does not have to stay that way. The Erase Race campaign has only one objective: the unifying of all Americans, and that without regard to the color of their skin. This is a difficult challenge because of our history, but we can do it if we believe. If we believe that Martin Luther King Jr. was right when he said, "We are tied together in a single garment of destiny," we can do it. We can do it if we believe the founding principles upon which our country was built, that all men are created equal. We can do it. And if we believe that God did in fact make all nations of men from one man, and that we are all therefore part of one family, one race, then we can do it. Yes, the task is monumental, but the reward is worth the challenge. If you would like to join us as we change America and inevitably change the world, go to E.R.A.S.E.races.com, sign up today, and welcome to E.R.A.S.E Races, because there is only one race, and you're in it. Life's most urgent and pressing question is, what are you doing for others?
Come on.
Welcome back to Talk About Unity today, and it's the day after we commemorate Dr. King, but we still got King ringing. The King dream is still ringing.
Come on.
I've got the shirt blinging, and I'm rhyming, right on timing. All right, but hey, let's get on with our show, so we're not about that today. But hey, really, we were talking about how it is about others, and that's all we've been really focusing on, because in today's environment, definitely the political environment where we are in this country, that is so difficult to maintain, where we're thinking about other people first. Everybody's wanting to articulate their viewpoint and get their point across, but what we really want to know is, what can we do for others? What we're really trying to find out is, how can we make things better for others in our society? Most people right now are concerned about having their way. Like I talked about the social media post where the person said, things are going to be the way that I want them on January 20th because the guy that I voted for is going to be in office now. And someone was very pleased with that. That's fine that you get what you desired and what you wanted for politically. But the question is, how does that manifest itself in making things better for others? And so that's our challenge, and that's where we kind of are. And so we went out and we use social media. Social media can be used for a lot of different purposes, and sometimes those are not all good.
That's right.
But you can make it for good. And so we went out to social media and we asked people to give us questions for our show today, because that's better than, well, I'm not gonna say it's better than calling in, because we would like to hear your voice, but it's the next best thing. All right. Yeah. We get your questions, and we're answering real questions that you have, and it's our view. And here's the thing that I don't like as much, is the fact that, because when I answer your question, I really want your feedback, And so, we'll post this video out there, and we'd like to get more feedback, because that's what it means to dialogue with people. Dialogue is two-way.
That's right.
It's not just my way. This is my viewpoint. I would love to hear yours. And so we've got some questions, and we thank you for wanting to hear our viewpoint on this, for those who submitted questions. And so without any further ado, unless you got any other comments, we can start with
let's get it.
We can dig into, let's go ahead and dig into questions.
So the first question is from Josh, and he asked this question: what's your view on the insurrection?
Oh man, that's a good one. And okay, the show is only an hour long, and so it's the only question we'll get to today. I'm just kidding.
Okay, so first, make sure we're all on the same page. What do we call? Some people are slept under a rock. So what are we calling the insurrection first?
Well, and that's the thing. Okay, so if you look up insurrection, it says an uprising against authority or government, or specifically government. So that's by definition an uprising. Yep. And it also says a violent uprising. So people can identify what happened on January 6th as an insurrection. And so I actually ask even a question of, well, then could the uprisings that we had over the summer, could those also be defined as insurrections? And then kind of the response was that people were saying, yeah, but those were because of George Floyd. And so they were mad because of George Floyd. I said, but does it still fit the definition? Because you're now you're doing a violent uprising against authority. We're going to burn down these buildings. We're going to protest the streets. nevertheless, it still could be called an insurrection, technically, if you look at it. Okay, so the issue is this, that I think what we do is when we go further into it and we find out why, like we do when we say, well, they did it because of this, then that shows our ability to empathize and try to understand. And
Right.
so when you look at the insurrection that happened in the Capitol, then those who would defend it would say, well, this is why they did it. And they might say they were trying to defend our democracy because they thought that there was election fraud and things like that. So that's another level. And that's the question. When you talk about when people make statements, are you really trying to empathize and understand their viewpoint? Then where do you go from there? And where do you go from there? So however you see it, whether one was a riot and was an insurrection, whether they're both insurrections, now let's answer the question,
Right.
what was going on with those things? And my particular view, because I am not heavily affiliated politically, and because I look at things, in my mind, very objectively, I say that in both situations, whether they were the riots over the summer, whether they were the uprising or the insurrection that happened at the Capitol, you need to look at conduct.
Right.
And when conduct is inappropriate, there's got to be some level of accountability. This is what it means. That's why I don't get caught up in the terms of what type of justice. I get caught up in the terms of what justice means.
Yep.
And justice means applying that evenly across the board and holding people accountable for their actions. And so I think that's what needs to happen. And so in my view of the quote unquote insurrection, there was some bad behavior, there was some bad conduct that people need to be held accountable for. And then after that, we need an investigation to figure out, why did this happen? What's causing this? And we need to look in that very deeply, and so we can have an objective viewpoint and not one just based on emotion and the fact that it favors one political party or the other. So that's my spin.
I see very little support, positive support for the insurrection. I mean, I can't see anybody. I haven't heard anybody. Tell me if you've seen it, where somebody says, "Oh no, this was a good idea. This was a good idea," and the tearing up the Capitol was justified to go do. I don't hear anybody say
Yeah, only the people that were there. I mean, some of the people that were there were on video. Some of them were saying, this is our house, we're taking over." You know, I saw some of that, but besides that,
there's so much goofiness. I mean, there's such a wide swath of what was being said,
Right.
and just some of it's conspiracy theory, some of it is coming from credible sources. But bottom line is, President Trump said, well, let's march down there. Had he not said, let's go march down there, I think a lot of, if there was somebody infiltrating like they did in some things in the past, wouldn't have had the opportunity to do that. They'd have been sticking out like a sore thumb. The bottom line is they got in there. Whoever dressed up in Trump garb got in there and tore up a bunch of stuff. And if they're wearing your stuff and your people aren't immediately refuting that in front of cameras or stopping them, if you're against somebody tearing up the courthouse, even if they're dressed like you and they're tearing up the courthouse, then why aren't you jumping on them and pulling them out of there to keep them from doing it? Nobody stopped them. That's one of the problems I have. Was I know that there was a lot of people there that said they did. I don't know people personally that went there, but they were saying we weren't for this tearing up the courthouse. Then why didn't anybody stop them? Because to my knowledge, there were very few people that actually had guns. They had sticks and they're tearing stuff up. But when you got several thousand people and there's a handful of people losing their mind doing stupid stuff, they could have been stopped. And I just don't understand why they weren't stopped.
Well, my question would be, when we compare what happened over the summer and we compare this thing, I would ask that question. And that's the one I would like answers to is, because is it just that this one is more egregious because it is the Capitol? Because it seems like this one is bigger because it's the Capitol, and they said, well, this maybe was an attack on our democracy. But burning down somebody, because I was just, and I guess I had an equal amount of just awe at the fact that when they were burning down those buildings in Minneapolis and when they took over Seattle, I was going, what? You're letting people do that?
Chaz.
And so I'm thinking, does one thing in fact then precipitate? Because if we let behavior go unchecked, then does it spawn others to believe that they can do this thing?
It does.
Because what would make these people think that they could do this at our capital?
Yeah.
And so I find that not only egregious, but I find it that we've got a pattern here in our country, people not being held accountable for bad behavior. And like I said, I wouldn't even ask the question of, what group are you with? Oh, you're with Antifa. What group are you with? I'm with the Proud Boys. Oh, what group? I'm with the. Right. I don't care if I'm the police chief. If I'm in charge, you're held accountable for your bad conduct.
Several of the Capitol Police got fired that day, and we haven't had nor heard of them. They didn't even name names as to who got fired, but we did see multiple videos from multiple sources where they were letting the people dressed in the pro-Trump attire come on in this way, come in this gate, and just the Capitol Police were urging them to come in, and then the police looked like they even staged like, I'm running away from you slowly up the Capitol stairs, and they had cameramen staged filming it, so it looked like maybe there was some of, I don't want to build a conspiracy. I can only say I saw what I saw. Was they let them in 2-3 different entrances, and then as people were acting like they were chasing the police up the stairs, there was a guy standing before they even ran up the stairs with his big camera and tripod filming the whole thing. It's like, this is so staged. This is not real. We don't really, honestly, do we know what's really real?
When will we? I don't think we'll ever know for real.
You see what you saw, and then you have to, come to your own conclusions.
What we do know is there was some people behaving badly,
horrible, and nobody stopped them.
Well, and some of those guys, like the big guy with the horns, they got it. They know who he was, and they identify who he was. He's the guy who needed the special meals, and his mom called and said,
"Are you serious?"
I am serious. You didn't hear that? His mom called and said, because he was arrested or whatever, he's on a special diet and he can only eat certain things.
Oh, okay.
His mom, really?
Yeah.
So that's a big issue. So that's crazy. But anyway, so that's the issue with the quote unquote insurrection.
So what? Okay. So there's the insurrection. Here's the tag to that. No, so immediately. Okay. So this is treasonous, and Trump needs to be charges filed, and he needs to be impeached. There was not one bit of give opportunity to defend themselves or evidence other than what we saw on TV. I mean, you talk about a rush to judgment trial.
Oh yeah.
So, my heart just breaks how horrible the legal process went, regardless if it's Trump or Nancy Pelosi. I don't care. I don't like unjust trials for anyone, and that was just a rush to judgment or justice or whatever you want to call it.
And first of all, people hate Trump. I mean,
there's a bunch of people that do.
People really hate Trump, and I understand if you're heavily, if you lean heavily left, which I hate using labels, but if you call yourself a Democrat, then you have to. It's part of the kind of the fee to be in the party. I mean, you have to hate. Not only do you hate Republicans, but you really gotta hate Trump. Yeah. And so you gotta hate Trump. And so that's what I hate. That I think that some of that is seeped. I mean, I would say seep in. It's kind of like it opened up in the floodgates, poured in to Nancy Pelosi, and you sense it when she talks. You can look at her. I mean, if you're a discerner of people's thoughts and intents of their heart, you look at her. And man, you could tell she hates him. Yeah, she hates him, and so I hate that she does things out of that hate rather than saying, I'm going to put my personal views to the side and deal with things objectively. I'm going to take actions based on what I think is the best thing to do. And I think she's so filled with the emotion of hate that she doesn't do that. And so I think that's why we end up kind of in some of these situations where we do things. That's why, like I remember her making a statement saying we would only do impeachment. This is before the first impeachment. We will only do impeachment if we have a united support, if it's bipartisan. That's what she said at first.
All right.
Then she changed that. No, we got to do this. And now she's just like, no, I don't care. We're going to do it. I don't care if we have anybody else's support. And so we got that. And it just presents a better picture of division for our country, as though we need that. And a better picture of division.
If we're going to make any progress in Congress, then there can't be any roadblocks. I mean, we've had things stalled for many years. And so the Senate Republicans said, before we move forward with any kind of legislation, before we move forward with any progress on anything else, we have to settle this impeachment thing. So everything's just roadblocked. They're not doing anything until they either cancel this impeachment or push forward with a correct legal proceeding for that. So, all of a sudden we're stopping with our emergency brake set.
Well, I think the American people will be pleased if they, first of all, if they can decide that they will do anything together, then we will be satisfied. So right. Senate, come together, House, y'all get your stuff together. And if y'all can do something in Congress together, American people would be proud. And that without regard to who the president is, I think that's what the American people want to see. And it would be nice if we could make that happen.
I just have one thing to say to everybody watching this and anybody that will ever listen. If we think that Washington, D.C. is going to fix our issues, we've lost our mind. It's time that the American citizen gets together and starts to have these conversations where someone talks and the other listens respectfully, and then the other person talks and the other person listens respectfully. And let's make some progress on some things. It was a shame that there was so it was so unfortunate that there wasn't more people running to that young man's aid the other day instead of blasting on the police and trying to get famous with their video. Our country is hurting, and the only way it's going to get healed is God. And then people just, we need to do the word my daughter uses all the time now that she's in college. She says, "Daddy, I'm adulting." The adults need to start adulting. We need to start adulting, acting like adults, and be mature citizens.
And not to put all of those quote unquote politicians in one group,
right.
But perhaps if they, perhaps they could begin to set an example. Maybe our expectations are now so low that we don't expect them to. And so we still have the responsibility, as you're saying, we have the responsibility to be that change that is necessary when we begin. Because after all, what do? They're called representatives. They represent us. And maybe they're representing the fact that we don't get along at our level. Richard and I, we have arguments and we can't be civil with each other. Maybe that's what our representatives are doing. They're showing us who we are. So maybe if we change, maybe our representatives will change. After all, they represent us. So,
well, if we could just keep fighting each other, it distracts us from paying attention to the fact that they're not getting anything done.
Yeah. Well,
the Indian chief said, once you realize that the left wing and the right wing is all a part of the same bird, then your eyes are open. Yeah.
American unity. That's what we're talking about. All right. So, So that's a question. And we've got halfway through the show and we've got one question done. So we're going to move a little bit faster because the other questions we don't think are that big, but we never know where our minds are going to go. Yeah. So we'll try to cover those when we come back from this break on Talk About Unity, where we take your questions today.
We work our whole lives to support our families. With one accident or illness, it can all be gone in an instant. Now there's a smart, affordable way to protect your family. Go to findhealthbenefits.com and discover low-cost life insurance for as little as $2 per month. Add to that a tax-deferred annuity that can help you protect your assets and grow your money for retirement. Learn more. Go to findhealthbenefits.com. or call 877-235-6094. A critical illness can strike without warning and wipe out your life savings. In fact, it's the #1 reason for bankruptcy. Find Health Benefits offers an affordable solution. Get up to $50,000 if you get cancer, stroke, or a heart attack, giving you the peace of mind to focus on getting better while the plan helps you to pay your bills and medical expenses. Learn more. Go to findhealthbenefits.com or call 877-235-6094. 66% of seniors spend more time shopping for cable TV than Medicare plans. Most say because it's just too confusing. Laws change every year. The wrong plan could cost you thousands and prevent you from seeing the doctors you want. Introducing findhealthbenefits.com. Save time, save money, see specialists without referrals. Go to findhealthbenefits.com or call 877-235-6094 for this informative brochure.
Society is on the edge. Let's bring them back. Edge Radio, because truth still matters.
Life's most urgent and pressing question, once again, you ought to know that. I've been saying it all day, is what are you doing for others? All right, and we're glad to have you back here on Talk About Unity. And right now we're going to do something for others. We're going to answer your questions. Come on. And so we had our first question, and now we're going to go to our second question, which shouldn't take as long, and we should hopefully entertain more of these questions. But this question came from Dana. Dana submitted this question. She said, who will you allow to determine your truth? Sounds like there's a lot in that. We're going to turn that to you. The pastor should have an answer for that. Who will you allow to determine your truth?
You hear this all the time. When somebody's doing something crazy or they find out something that somebody else doesn't know, and all of a sudden they drop the truth bomb on them. That's what they call it. And so you got to do something about it. Now you got to do something. Now that you know the truth, you got to do something about it. They always say, you know the truth, and the truth will set you free. You know the truth, and the truth will set you free.
I've heard that all the time.
You know what? That's only half of the quote. Jesus actually said in John 16, he says, he's talking to his disciples, if you continue in my word, then you are my disciple, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. If you really want to know the core of what the truth is, you got to dig into the Word of God. Now, there's a lot of people that aren't Bible thumpers, okay? Right. I get that. But there are godly principles in which we need to live by. And don't pretend that something is the truth that's not the truth. People can live a lie all day long, you know?
So those things got to come first.
Pick at people, huh?
So they got to come first. You got to first of all, if you know those biblical principles, and if you're abiding by those things, then you can know the truth. So can they know the truth outside of that? I mean, is there a truth that they could say, yeah, but I know this thing, but I don't believe it?
Well, okay, so some universal principles that Jesus always referred to was integrity. You know, be honest with what you say. And the things that you believe and you hold values to, make sure that they're solid. I mean, don't believe a lie. If you know something's not true, don't say, hey, I weigh 180 pounds and you weigh 450. That's not the truth, you know? Or you know, I'm going to become more disciplined and I'm going to be more physically fit. But yet you wake up in the morning, you eat a half a gallon of ice cream and you watch soap operas all day. You're not, or I want to be wealthy and you haven't even applied for a job. Right? You know, we can live in, I call it La La Land. I'm actually writing a book called Leaving La La Land.
It sounds like La La Land.
La La. You know,
it might be La La.
You know, gingerbreads and candy canes and everything's going to work out great. But yet I'm going to talk ugly to my wife and be dishonest. You know, that's La La Land. We have to be honest. We have to be truthful. We have to own our stuff. And if somebody's telling you something that this is the truth, then ask them to back it up. You know, this whole that we're talking about a race thing. This is a really good premise that I try to live by. When somebody, you know, you're having whether it's a political argument or a cultural argument, and I'm winning the argument for whatever reason. This happened a handful of times. I'm winning this particular argument, and they don't have an intelligent, rational thought or come back to what I'm saying. Well, what's a lot of times the response I get? Well, you're a racist. And what I used to do is no, I'm not. You know, I've done this and I've done that and I've helped this person and this person is my friend and, you know, and I love everybody. And I just run to defending myself, which really makes me sound like I'm guilty, right? and I said, you know, I'm not doing that anymore. What I say now, because honestly, I may have a blind spot and I don't know that I am. And if I am, I don't want to be. And if I sound offensive, I don't want to be offensive. They say, you're a racist. I have it's actually two words. How so? Tell me, how am I? Where do you gather this fact, this revelation that I've obviously?
And what kind of response do you get for that question?
Nobody wants that comeback. Hey, really, in logical terms, tell me how I am based on what I just said, or do you know a part of me that I don't know? Come on, let's have the conversation because if I truly am. And I don't want to be. Help me.
Let me redirect this so we can ask. So I think when they're saying who will you allow to determine your truth, I think that they're thinking about Who are you listening to? Are you listening to CNN,
Come
MSNBC,
on.
Fox News?
Yeah.
So what are we trying? What is our response to that? Who is determining our truth?
Yeah.
Ultimately, who do you think? Who's determining, or who should be determining our truth? And how are we dealing with that in our country today? Because I think people are listening to what they get on one of the TV news outlets, and that's the one that they go with. So what is the danger in that? You know,
number one, you don't know their life. You don't really know their source. I mean, maybe you should be a journalist if you're not fact checking those that are bringing you the truth, or what you perceive to be the truth. They're giving you the news, and then you turn the channel, it says something contradictory, and then you have to go, okay, who's telling the truth? Because obviously somebody's not telling the truth. Here's a premise that I live by, and I take the news with a grain of salt. I really do. There's so much propaganda on TV. It's simply this. I really pay attention to the fruit that's hanging on somebody's tree before I listen to anything they have to say. You know, if they're living a life of integrity, it'll show. If they're honest, it'll show. If they're a trickster or a conniver or a deceiver, yeah, that's going to show up too. So, and you'll find out over a period of time, if you do your research, many journalists that are dishonest, it doesn't take much digging to find out that, their life's pretty shady. And I really don't have confidence in that journalist, so I'm not going to listen to them.
That's very good. I had a quick experience. I remember when I was in Baghdad, and we were in Saddam's palace there in Baghdad, and bombings, mortar rounds, and stuff happening regularly. But one thing that was interesting was to watch CNN, have CNN on the TV inside, which we did inside the palace, and watching their broadcast and looking at the facts on the ground. And sometimes those things didn't match. And you're going, that's not true. I'm here. That's not true. I'd call my wife, and she's all stressed out about, hey, is this happening? And I was going, that's not it. No, it's not happening. And so how are you allowed to determine your truth is very important, because everything that people are parading as truth is not necessarily so. And I think the answer is this, and this is one of the big answers that I have with Erase Race, is like, go out and meet others. Go out and meet others, so that you don't have to believe what they're saying on the news about others. And most of us believe what we've heard about others, and we don't have anything to disconfirm that. We don't have anything on the opposite, so we believe what they're saying.
And I know you can't believe everything that you see, because it's not always what it appears to be. But when you have, come on, this happened less than 3-4 months ago. The protests were really getting bad, and the one news anchor says, well, as you can obviously tell, this is a mostly peaceful protest, and you got 5 buildings burning in the background, and there's 10 wrecked, tore up, burned up cars. That's not a peaceful, come on, man.
What, you going to believe your lying eyes? Your eyes are lying. Your eyes are lying.
This is mostly, this looks like Afghanistan.
All right, let's go next one. I got a next question for you. All right. And this one comes from Wayne. He's got 2 questions, all right? And so we got something to really think about here, all right? The first one is, should the Congress continue to pursue impeachment? So should Congress continue to pursue impeachment? That's a yes or no, but we can talk about it a little bit. And should they conduct investigations of misconduct by their fellow members? Should they conduct investigations of misconduct by their fellow members? And they're talking about in Congress.
Okay, misconduct by our fellow members pertaining to what happened on the insurrection.
I guess that's what I think that's what they're implying. Should they conduct a misconduct? Yeah, I think that's what it's implying.
So,
yes.
So the whole impeachment thing. Number one. So who was it? Mitch McConnell said they were not going to reconvene. They'd have to have 100% consent to come back. They did not come back early. So now, when they start the proceedings of impeachment, President Trump's already going to be out of office. So it's going to serve no good.
What about those people who say, but they want to have a proceeding that keeps him from running from office in the future?
There's no legal precedent that says that would actually work. Even if they do fully, absolute 100%, everybody agrees that he could be impeached again. Where's the legal precedent? Number one, there's not one. And what is the actual law that says he can't run again? A lot of people are saying, no, well, he'll never be able to run again. Somebody needs to show me that law, because I
heard one lawyer, I think he was saying that you could do it, but that would be a separate proceeding. So you'd have the impeachment then, and the impeachment would need to precede that second thing. That would be that would prevent him from running in the future. So there's another issue so first you got to get past impeachment. Then they could do that other thing that he talked about. And I can't remember who that guy was, but he said that could in fact happen legally. All right. But here's my thing on the impeachment. This thing I said about Nancy. Of course, I'm the unity guy. So this would be which I don't think that I have the only viewpoint. That's why I'm so big into dialogue, because this is just my opinion. My opinion is that at some point in America, unity has got to take priority. And we've got to decide, I understand, I hate this person over here, but for the cause of unity, I'm going to allay my feelings of hate for that person because I want to go for this greater thing. And in this particular case, I think we become, and I understand that there's total justification for why they might want to impeach Donald Trump. I understand that. But I think if they could take the time and say, however, we've got to begin immediately now healing our country. Right. That's got to take precedent. And I'm so much more overwhelmed by our desire for unity that I'm going to do that. And I'm not going to take this action that I could take if I wanted to, but it takes away too much of my energy. It takes away too much. And everybody will say, well, they got to be able to, our politicians got to be able to walk and chew gum. I understand that thing about multitasking, but I'm telling you that our focus should be solely on healing our country, unifying. But that's my view from the unity guy. All right. So I would say no, and I'm not saying they don't have the right to, and they shouldn't be doing it. I'm saying we got to go for something bigger. And I think the bigger things are the things that we need to begin searching for in our country, rather than these small things, rather than getting our emotions satisfied, and I think that's what's happening with a lot of people. They're getting emotion satisfied. What is that doing for our country?
Nothing. There's an opportunity to pour some water on the fire and say goodbye to the impeachment and move on. Or you can throw some more gas on it, because there's some people in office, Republicans in office, that feel unsatisfied and unheard regarding some things that was coming up, anywhere from the Steele dossier to WikiLeaks to Hunter Biden to so many other things that they felt like they did not finish presenting why these things should be addressed. And listen, if you're going to throw rocks at this whole impeachment thing, then all of a sudden maybe they're like, okay, well, if we're just going to keep fighting, well, let's go ahead and just keep fighting about everything. Like I said, I think our answer is going to be, this average citizen needs to stand up and say, and call the representatives and like, hey, either you make some progress and act like an adult, or the next time, everybody on both sides, please, let's just vote everybody out. The one person that I really am behind a lot on this one issue on, Ted Cruz, finally said, you know what? I'm really pushing for term limits. I need everybody.
Hey, that's a good one right there.
Term limits. Wow.
Now, because you said Ted Cruz, people are gonna say, "Well, he did this."
Yeah.
How about term limits? How about term limits? Can we all agree on term limits?
Term limits.
My goodness, that's one where we get universal agreement. But I guess when the hate is in the air, then I don't even agree on the things that I agree with you on.
Well,
that's crazy. That's crazy. All right.
I think we need.
What about the investigation? Should they conduct investigations of misconduct by their fellow members? Some people were saying that Josh Hawley and Cruz, they wanted to expel them from the Senate. And I heard them ask incoming Ron Klain, who's the incoming chief of staff for President-elect Biden.
What did Cruz and Hawley do?
They said they were furthering the misinformation about the election. And so because of their role in what eventually happened at the Capitol, then they should be expelled from the Senate. And so they once again, people throw these things out there to see if they will get any traction. Yeah. And they threw it out to President Biden's incoming chief of staff, Ron Klain, and he said he didn't go for it. He didn't go for that. He said, and that was really good, because that's the thing at the end of the day, and we'll move on to our next question after this. But I think the issue is going to be that when we hire, and I call it the American people, when we hire a leader, then we do that for them to solve the problems that we have at the time. And if unity is in fact as big an issue as I say it is, and I say it is a big issue, and I don't think anybody would disagree with me right now, if it's that big, the question is, will Biden solve that problem? That is the number one problem. You can talk about climate change. You can talk about all these other things, social unrest. Unity is the biggest problem. Can you solve it? If you don't, you're going to get fired. You're going to get fired because the American people want this thing solved, And if you don't get it done, then we'll get somebody else.
Yeah.
So, all right. Our next question, boy, we got through more questions than I thought in the show. We've already done about 4 questions, so we see if we can get this 5th one. All right. Here's a good one. This one came from David, and he asked this question. He said, since Trump had 74 million supporters, he said, and for the Republican Party agenda, since they have 74 million people who are supporting that agenda, and the president, what does this say about the direction of our country? So the fact that we've got 74 million people, we had 80 million people vote in favor of Biden, we had 74 million people. What does this say about the direction of the country? So where are we going to head when you've got this kind of divide? What does it say?
You know, there's two ways to look at it. One is to say that we are more divided now than we ever have been. The other way of looking at it, which is the way I look at it, there's never been a more balance of power than what we have right now.
Very good.
So you have a Democratic president. You have, is it how many in the House? Like 4 or 5?
I think it's, let me see. So 235 is the number, and I think they're 210, I think, Republicans. They picked up some.
So like 5.
Yeah.
So the Republicans picked up several seats.
Yeah,
I think it's like 5 or less in the House, and it's exactly 50-50 in the Senate, and the tiebreaker is Kamala. But then you have a conservative majority in the Supreme Court. Of course, they're not supposed to be one way or the other, political, but the bottom line is from where they came from for their judging in the past were 3 were appointed by President Trump and conservatives. So this is a very balanced, very much a balanced government right now. I don't think it's ever been more balanced than it is right now.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting for us all to understand, because what is it? And in my case, I think it's a perfect opportunity for unity.
Yep. Because
it says the person that you're talking to is probably represents the other 50% of the country. They're probably opposite you. And so now, can you do something so that you all can work together? Yep. So that's really big, and that's really good. I haven't really thought about it that way, because if you listen to the political side of it, then people will say we're in control now,
or the world's coming to an end.
Well, yeah, or there are a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is going to happen." That's what I kind of hate, the doomsday people who are saying socialism's going to take over and all these things. It's like, no, we're kind of perfectly divided. So that's good. And we didn't get to all of our questions today, and so we're going to close out. And hey, but keep sending us those questions. When we post this out there, we're going to say, keep sending us questions. We'll entertain the questions. Matter of fact, we'll probably do something nice and maybe start offering T-shirts or something for people who give us a great question. Things that we need to talk about, because I think at the end of the day, that's really what we want to do. We want to increase the level of dialogue that's happening in this country, which means that I'm going to talk to Richard, Richard's going to talk to me, and you need to do the same thing with people in your sphere of influence. Have a conversation with them, entertain what they've got to say, and let's begin to feel each other.
Yep.
And let's grow together. So give us some closing comments there before we go out there.
Well, I just want to encourage you. Hey, listen, this is a time where if we live fully present, we can make a huge impact on somebody else's life. There's some people out here that are fired up, angry, mad at the world. Well, show them a different side. Another thing is there's a lot of people that are living with a lot of anxiety and fear. And listen, start walking with confidence, knowing that, our country's been through tough things. We're going to get through this. So I just want to say it's been a pleasure having this conversation, and looking forward to see what lies ahead. And as we can talk about everything, we're going to get through everything. Yeah. Talk about unity on the edge, right? It's going to be all right.
That's great. And remember, pray for our inauguration tomorrow. That thing is happening, and a lot of consternation is happening in our country. So pray for the inauguration. Check it out. And hey, we'll be back here next week to talk about more unity. And hopefully during that time, you've walked more about this unity that we talk about.
That's good.
All right, we're out.